Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on today's podcast, we've got John Payne from Noisy Little Monkey. Hello, John.
Hi, Chris.
How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, lovely. I mean, apart from the way the world is right now, I think these little moments of having a conversation on with some decent agency owners actually keeping me going, to be honest.
No, yeah, there is something about the simplicity of speaking to people in your own sector for long enough that you stop doom scrolling. That
it's
makes everything better.
It's a bit like a warm hug. So first of all, give us a little bit of a plug. Who are Noisy Little Monkey? What do they do? How long have you been going? Tell us, just in case there's a customer maybe listening.
Noisy Little Monkey are the people you should buy from. We are an inbound sales and marketing agency for B2B businesses. We've been going about 13 years. We started as an SEO agency. I started it in a temper, actually, because I was so sick and tired of meeting people who'd been ripped off by SEOs. And I ran a web agency that kind of built SEO in, and we did some of the search term research. And like people, I had one person tell me that they had a web designer, an SEO tell them that they didn't know that when they signed the contract, they didn't make it clear that they wanted to rank on Google. And it was like in the early 2000s, and it's like
the Wild West days.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to rank on Yahoo, it's a bit easier. You really. So I started in a temper. We started out as SEO, but now we the inbound sales and marketing thing means we get traffic for our clients. We call it TLC: traffic, leads, and customers. So we get traffic through SEO, leads through marketing automation. We're a HubSpot partner, that helps us convert more of those leads into customers. Through sales enablement and stuff.
I love it. It's a typical digital agency to come up with their own acronym.
Yeah, I definitely stole it off someone.
Yeah.
It's an even more typical digital agency. Yeah, definitely stole the acronym.
Fantastic. So we've got 4 questions here, John. We're going to see how the conversation takes us, and we'll take it from there. So the first question I've got for you is, over the last 13 years, what do you think has been one of the biggest successes of running the agency?
I would really love to say the fabulous wealth I've amassed. But
I can see your to those listening, they can't see you, but you've got golden everything around you. I can see you've got a golden microphone. You must be rich.
And if you imagine how much that weighs, to have it on this Lear jet, it increases the fuel price considerably.
It's amazing, yeah.
But it actually isn't that. I'm on a much cheaper propeller engined plane. It's the culture's the wrong word. It's a real classic word for it, but it is people tell us that this is a nice place to work. And I've worked in, and that's what I wanted to build. Once we started making SEO a nicer place in our part of the world, I wanted to build a place where I wanted to work, because I've always enjoyed working, but I've worked for some arseholes, and sometimes clients are arseholes as well. So if we can make coming to work a nice place where you get paid a decent chunk, and it's not all slides and cool breakfasts.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny, I think, with running these agencies. It's nice to have a good conversation with the customer, with the team. It's nice to have all of these nice little things like a breakfast here and there, and bean bags and all that sort of stuff. But then culture is a little bit more than beanbags, breakfast, and some nice emails and a few words and things like that. So what is it that you've done that you think has made the culture, and we'll use culture as the Turner phrase, what do you think's made that good?
Probably my wife, who's the managing director, is probably the biggest tick in that box, because I'm a typical agency leader, I suppose, in that I have lots of ideas all the time. We were talking about before we started recording how we both have lots of ideas all the time, and I've got really short fuse if those ideas aren't executed as well as I think they should be executed. So to begin with, I wanted to build a place that people loved to come to work, and they really loved the coming to work and working with the John Payne that was exciting and funny and had sparky ideas for clients and all of that kind of stuff. But they didn't like the bloke who punched laptops to death, my record is now 4 laptops.
I can imagine your Glassdoor profile is looking pretty good for that.
yeah. I'm glad I didn't get to see that that Excel spreadsheet of all of the terrible agencies to work for. I imagine but I was definitely on it. Actually, I think we're way too small to have been on it. But anyway, but so Nick really put in place the stuff that said, okay, well, this is John's dream. He clearly can't execute it. He's an infant. We need to help him execute it. And then our creative director, Tash, said, if you ever lose your temper again in the office, you have to go for anger management. Otherwise, I'm going to resign.
Wow.
And she'd been with us for 8 years by that point, or 7 years by that point. And she's fairly fundamental to, like, she's part of I hate to say part of the family again, because it's another horrible cliche. We're
part
not
of the
family.
fabric of the business.
Yeah, fabric will do. That's great. And so going for anger, hey, this is yet another podcast where an agency owner is talking about therapy. But so
I think it's almost a necessity. The lives that an agency owner lives, it's there's a version of coaching, mentorship, but definitely therapy required at certain times.
Yeah, absolutely. But so they really have more than helped. They have set the culture and made it work. And then it's great because I get to be the infant still, except without the tantrums. We also, you can't have a good culture without making money, right? And I think my background in sales before I did this, I used to sell IT peripherals on the phone, which is why SEO was such a revelation to me. It was like I had a sales team of 20 odd people, and suddenly with a website, I could make the website sell more than them if I could get it to the top of Google. Oh wow, that's the thing. And so because I had that background in sales, we've always been really, really focused on profit. So making profit out of every project and all of that kind of stuff. So but yeah, so you have to have that, otherwise you can't pay people good money, you can't have a nice office, you can't do the things that they like, and you can't take time occasionally to be a bit more creative than normally agency time allows you to be.
Well, cash flow gives you so much in your agency or any business. It's the lifeblood of a business. It means that you can actually operate, but it also means that if you've got plenty of cash flow, you can take things at a different pace if you need to. You can speed things up, you can slow things down, and like you say, you can focus on getting the nice bits done as well. So you can actually do some good stuff as well. So, you don't have to you don't have to say, okay, well, this year we're going to do these nice things in the office, and next year we're going to do that. You can do it over the course of time, but a little bit nicer, and get it all done right, because you've got the cash to do it.
And just have enough time. So like we get pissed off with people if they work past 5 o'clock. Not that pissed off, actually. I'm an agency owner. I kind of celebrate it on the QT. But there is a culture of you arrive at before 9 and you leave at 5. We're in marketing at the end of the day. Everybody's got enough shit. You look behind me, I've got enough shit. I look behind you, you've got plenty of shit. We don't need anybody to buy more stuff. But we do, and it's our job. And hopefully we work for some companies that do something ethical with their profits and sustainable with their profits. But actually, no one really needs more stuff. So here we are doing that. And then, I talk to people who are working till like 2 a.m. on things. And occasionally you have to, because it's a passion project, or you've promised something to a client and you don't want to let them down. But that shouldn't be the norm. That should be really super rare. We should be working in places where it's you're not expected to be on call any time of day or night because the creative director has a crazy idea.
Yeah, one of the things I used to do when I ran an agency was, if everyone has a set of accountabilities and everyone's workload is very clear, and you're measuring yourselves in terms of what gets done, if you can get done earlier and you haven't got any calls or any reason to be, then sit on Twitter, learn something new,
Yeah.
and then bugger off as soon as the day's over.
Yeah.
But don't I think part of agency culture, and correct me if I'm wrong if you disagree, I find that quite a lot of agencies very much like to give their staff a laptop, and it's initially when you first arrive at an agency as a junior, you're like, oh wow, I've been given a MacBook or some really cool laptop. But actually what you're being given is a license to check your work at home and do some work later and things like that. The first agency I ever worked at, we had desktop PCs at the desk, and when you left the office you couldn't even check your email. And it was it, you were stuck,
Yeah.
that was it. So you had a few people stay a little bit later or come in a little bit earlier, but they did that out of choice because they just wanted to either get ahead or something like that. But there was no culture around work.
Yeah.
Work was the work bit. And then you can, if you've got that kind of, we don't mind if you leave dead on 5, or if you've done your work, chill out and learn something about the industry or something like that, then
Yeah.
then you end up having people who are generally a little bit happier, and happier people stay longer and earn you more money.
Yeah, and tend to be a bit more creative.
Yeah.
It's funny you say about laptops. We didn't get, you only got a laptop here if you were constantly in, or if you're in and out of meetings all the time. So you had to, get
Yeah.
up from your desk and do a Zoom call in the quiet room, or if you were, had to go to client site. So most people all had desktops.
Presumably it's harder to punch a desktop as well.
They're a lot more sturdy.
Yeah.
Lot more sturdy. I haven't punched a laptop now for over 4 years, and
Well,
that's a thing to celebrate.
congratulations. It is. So if you were to go back, say, 13 odd years and talk to the younger, more sprightly version of you, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I've heard you ask this of other people, and their answers were really
It's hard,
good.
isn't it?
Yeah. I think the advice I would give myself is employ someone or partner up with someone who's run an agency before,
Mm.
or and particularly run an agency that is digital marketing, let's say, whether that's SEO or content or PR, because like. Chris can see me. I'm an old man, and therefore I've gone into stuff with the arrogance of an old man who thinks he can do everything, and I can revolutionize the way that
Yeah.
agencies work. No, they all kind of work the same, and I should have just got someone in so that I didn't spend the first 6 years experimenting with agency structure.
Yeah.
And going, it's all right, because one day I'm going to be on stage at a TED talk and go, this is how I revolutionized work. It's
Yeah.
not happened.
No, and it doesn't happen because the fundamentals of running an agency are the same. It's I always liken it to a recipe. So if you're going to make an agency is a cake, and if you're going to make a cake is a cake is a cake is a cake. The difference is you use chocolate or vanilla, or you use orange or whatever. The recipe is the you can add a splash of this and a little dash of that, which is your own, and it makes it unique. And you can add little unique propositions in and things like that. But ultimately, it's still a cake. It has to be cooked at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time, and so on. It has, it's if you don't do it that way, then it ends up costing money or taking time. And the only way that would ever really change is if the fundamental mechanics of that model that underlies how a business works changes, which is unlikely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, but if you'd have talked to me 13 years ago, I'd have been like that. Fuck it, I'm making a sandwich, Chris. Don't worry about it. Sorry, am I allowed to swear?
I don't know. We'll see if it gets taken down off Spotify.
Oh no.
I think it's fine. I tick a little box that says it's not for children, and then it's okay.
Oh no. I've got such a reputation for terrible language, and I have just compounded it.
It's okay. You said it twice as well.
Uh,
I think when we get this transcribed later, I suspect it will come across, and I can put an expletive sound in there or something like that. So, if you were to, if like you say, if you were to go back in time, give yourself a bit of advice that was to if you was to set up this agency yourself, partner with someone else. Do you think 13 years ago version of you would have actually listened to that advice? Would you taken the advice?
no, I was an incredibly arrogant idiot.
It's
I
part of the
was fun to
DNA
be,
of
yeah, I was fun to be around, I think. as long as you weren't in my immediate circle. I was not. I suspect I still remain pleasant in small doses. But yeah, yeah, no, I wouldn't have taken that advice.
It's quite hard to think back in terms of those sorts of things, because often, like, you would have would have given then you that advice, and that's quite it feels really nice to say with hindsight I would have given myself this advice, but realistically, would you honestly have a if you'd have gone back in time and said, right, John, I've got 30 seconds to tell you you're about to set up an agency, partner with someone, I've got to go, and then by the time you worked out, the mechanics of, the laws of nature prohibit what happened, and you got your head around that, you probably then go, I'm not going to listen to that, and
Yeah,
then you'd have the hindsight point later on anyway, because you are who you are now versus.
yeah,
And that's part of the thing around, like, the therapy piece that people could talk about a lot, and getting coaches, getting mentors, getting
yeah,
people in and around you who you can trust, because hindsight is great, but hindsight also costs a lot of money. I often say that running an agency is the most expensive MBA you'll ever get.
yeah,
And the thing with having people around you that are either your peers or professionals or something like that, the thing that the best part of that is that you can trust based on their experiences.
yeah.
And if I said my advice to you would be this based on that, you could choose to take it or not, but at least it'd be part of your thinking about 3 years before it was a mistake or a problem.
Yeah, my wife is a great believer in coaches, because she's emotionally mature enough to understand all of that stuff, and I wasn't when we
Mm.
first started out. And she kept saying, "Oh, you need a coach. You need a coach," and I needed a therapist, is what I needed. But I also needed a coach.
Yeah.
And I finally found the one that I finally kind of started using or working with was called Caitlin Moran, and she was
Mm.
Caitlin Moran, excuse me, and she was. Uh, she'd run her own business, and I'm like that.
Yeah.
Oh, I need you to coach me. And then the
Mm.
next person we got who to coach us was called Chris Thurling, and he had run a huge business and really struggled at the end, and it had kind of hit the wall,
Yeah.
and had gone from I think 70, 80 people to like one or two, and then he
Yeah.
built it back up again, managed
That's
to sell it
that's
for
gonna
and get
hurt.
out. Yeah, but I'm like that, man. You've got the answers. You have
Yeah.
got a lot of the answers. I want, I want to be coached by you, not
Yeah.
someone who's been a success all of the way.
Well, this is the thing. So, like I say, it's a very expensive MBA, because you're actually learning the lessons by making mistakes as you go. And most agencies are, like you, similar to me, set up by people who know what they're doing in terms of the doing, but the actual agency bit, you think you've got all the answers and you really don't. Um, the good thing about coaches is, or the best of coaches, don't tell you how to do it, and it's not a done for you kind of service. That part of it is bringing you along in your own journey. If someone just came in one day and said, right, now do this, do this, do this, well, they're the MD, they're
Yeah,
they're the non-executive director, they're not a coach at that point, they're telling you specifically what to do. But if they help you to learn stuff, then they're coaching you. If they help you to understand stuff, then they're mentoring you, and that's really good for an agency owner. The hard thing is, one of the things I found the hardest when I brought a coach into my agency was actually kind of having to come to terms with not actually being the best at what I thought I was good at.
yeah.
I
God damn,
thought
that's hard, isn't it?
yeah, God, I thought the sun shone out my ass. I thought I was, I knew that the work we did was great. I knew that all the things that we were doing in the agency were great. I knew all of the time that we were spending in the agency was working well. It was just a case of a lot of sort of wasted effort and time that just sort of got spent on random things. And then someone comes along and says, yeah, this isn't quite right. And you start thinking, oh, that can't be right. I know I'm right. I've spent all these years being right. I know I'm right. It's everyone else that's around me that's wrong. And it's
Yeah,
very hard to come to terms with that.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, you need to surround yourself with the right people. Sure.
so, so in the 13 years you've been running Noisy Little Monkey, is there something that you kind of have learned along the way that set you up for this current success that you have? Something that's either gone really well and you've gone, I'm going to keep doing that, or something that kind of screwed up and you went, right, that lesson has now meant that I can get to where I am now.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a hard lesson and something that kind of I had the faith in, but
Mm.
maybe just didn't keep the faith, which is that a business needs a leader. And so
Mm.
I think for probably 3 or 4 years we had the wrong balance of, okay, everybody, we love and we nurture our people, and we make this a great place to work, and that means
Mm.
they have a say in where this is going.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't 3 or 4 years, maybe it's 2 or 3 years, and we were doing okay. But actually, people were less happy. We had better money. We were paying them well.
Yeah.
We were paying ourselves well, and everybody had a say in how we ran the business. But people were less happy. They needed me, and and this kind of downplays the work that Nicola, my wife, does. But so, but we're talking about this bit for now. So I just acknowledge the fact that actually without her we'd be nowhere. But they needed me to be the leader. They needed me to go, this is where we're going, lads. This is what we're going to do. Come on, gang. Let's go and make this happen. And sometimes when there are difficult decisions to be made, just one person makes the decision and
Yeah. Well,
lances it.
this is the thing. So leaders set the strategy, leaders set the tone and the purpose. That's vital. If everyone gets a say in the strategy, then it's going to go wrong. If everyone gets a say in everything, it's going to go wrong. But if people are led into a position where they feel that that they can be heard if there's an opportunity, but at the same time they know that the purpose and the direction that the business is traveling in because of your leadership is the direction that they want to be going in, they're not naturally they're going to be happy. And let's be completely honest, quite a lot of people, and this isn't a bad thing, quite a lot of people want to be led, and it's
Yeah.
not okay. It's a human thing. It's not.
Yeah.
That's why some leaders find it so hard to lead, because they kind of also want to be led themselves.
Yeah.
It's just a human requirement that we all kind of just think, oh well, I need some kind of direction so that when I get out of bed in the morning, I know what I'm getting out of bed for.
Yeah. And it's hard to find that balance, or it was hard. I think we've got it now. It was hard for a long time to find that balance between, and perhaps that's because I wasn't emotionally mature enough.
Yeah.
God, I'm 52 years old, and I'm only just talking about that I'm
And
not
you don't look a
emotionally
day
mature
over
enough.
51.
That's very kind. But yeah, you think I wasn't emotionally mature enough to go, oh, I can be a leader and still be a nice person. I don't have to be everybody's friend. Which you find out pretty quickly when you start making redundancies, that they never saw you as their friend anyway.
Yeah.
They always knew that when the cut was coming, it was you who was going to make the phone call or go around their house or bring them into the office. So yeah, getting that balance right is a tough one. But I wish I'd done it sooner. Yeah.
So if someone who's listening right now is thinking of starting their own agency, they've got an aspiration to run one, or they've literally just started and they're listening with their notepad out, waiting to listen to John's golden nugget of advice. What one thing would you tell them to consider or to do if they're starting out for themselves?
Listen to other people, obviously, because my nuggets of advice are very narrow. But and here is one that's super narrow. Having spent 13 years or 12 years now working with my significant other, who I love dearly, and who rescued me as a complete failure, and helped me build this business, I would definitely not have chosen to run the business with her. I've had her in the business in some capacity if I could. But yeah, so don't work with your significant other in a senior role if you can help it. The reason being is not because that person isn't necessarily hugely talented. Part of the reason our relationship works is also why the business works. One of us is organized and caring and focused on detail around money, and the other one is me, and I'm an idiot. But what happens is your money becomes so tied to that one of you make, that both of you make. The money of the business becomes so tied to the personal money in your personal bank account or your personal life. And then everything becomes personal. Every decision, every slight, every perceived slight in the office is personal. And so I think I would have had her as a coach in my position, and I would have hired that person who'd run an agency before. But yeah, having said that, I know loads of agencies that work as husband and wife teams or two partners running it who live together, and they work fine. But we all, whenever we get together, we all go, God, I'd never do it with them again.
Yeah, no, I can recognise that. My wife and I ran our agency together, and it's exactly the same from your as your perspective. The things that worked because of the people that we are and were. But like you say, you get home in an evening and you're sitting there and you talk about work, or there's a
Oh
problem
God.
that you kind of there's little bits of resentment that you end up having, and you have to work out that's about work, let's leave it now, let's go and have
Yeah,
dinner, and
exactly.
then you got to cook and do all these things together, and you so your piece of advice to an aspiring agency owner would be to listen to people and not work with your wife, husband, or a significant other.
Yes, exactly. Although if you get
Fantastic.
the opportunity, work with my wife. She's amazing.
What fantastic advice to end this podcast on. Everyone contact John at the end of listening to this and offer his wife a job.
She doesn't work for the agency so much now, so she is available, but it's
There
quite
we
a high
go.
rate.
Yeah, I was going to say you've talked her up quite a lot. Um, Thanks very much for coming along, John. It's been great to talk to you.
That's been brilliant. Thank you, mates, for having me. It's been real fun.
No trouble at all. And on the next podcast, we'll have another awesome digital agency owner, and we'll speak to you all soon. Thank you very much for listening.